The alien Brunali thought stopping the doomsday asteroid careening towards their planet was too dangerous to even attempt, an impossible suicide mission, until the humans showed up and told them to hold their beers. Karos, the Brunali leader, stared at the massive display screen showing the rogue space rock. The numbers next to it painted a grim picture: 500 kilometers wide, 50 billion tons, impact velocity of 30 kilometers per second. A planet killer headed straight for the Brunali homeworld. In 6 months, it would hit and wipe out their civilization. Karos had sent desperate pleas for help to the wider galactic community. The replies trickled in, all saying the same thing: impossible. Deflecting or destroying an asteroid that size was beyond the capabilities of even the most advanced spacefaring races. Some expressed sympathy, but none were willing to even try. As the weeks passed, and the asteroid loomed larger in the sky, visible even in daylight, the Brunali descended into despair and panic. 3 months before impact, with all hope lost, a message arrived from an unexpected source, a mysterious young race called humans, from a distant planet called Earth. "We're sending a team," was all it said. Karos had never even heard of humans before. A small human ship arrived the next day, captained by a man named Thomas Turner. He strode into the Brunali command center, bypassing the shocked guards. Karos sized him up skeptically. This human looked unimpressive, and his ship was a rickety rust bucket compared to the sleek Brunali fleet. "I'm here to help," Turner said simply. Karos laughed bitterly. "How? The greatest minds in the galaxy say stopping this asteroid is impossible. What can your primitive species possibly do?" Turner just smiled. "Drill a hole to the center, plant a big-ass nuke, and blow it in half." Karos's eyes widened. "Are you insane? That asteroid is solid nickel iron. Drilling to the core would take years we don't have." "My team specializes in doing the impossible," Turner replied. "We'll get it done, but we need your help with supplies and equipment." Karos hesitated. This plan was suicide. But what choice did they have? In 3 months, they'd all be dead anyway. He nodded slowly. "Very well. Do what you must. The fate of the Brunali rests in your hands." As the human ship departed on its desperate mission, Karos had to ask, "Why are you doing this? Why risk your lives for us?" Turner looked him straight in the eye. "Because someone has to, and no one else will." Then he blasted off to meet the incoming harbinger of doom head-on. The Brunali were left to watch, wait, and pray to gods they no longer believed in that these strange upstart humans could pull off a miracle. The human ship streaked through the void, rapidly closing the distance to the massive asteroid. Captain Thomas Turner gripped the controls tightly as the jagged, pockmarked surface of the space rock filled the view screen. His crew of expert drillers and demolition specialists checked their gear one last time, preparing to disembark. The ship shuddered as it made contact with the asteroid, docking clamps engaging to hold it fast against the uneven terrain. Turner and his second-in-command, Mike Donnelly, were the first to step out onto the surface, their armored exosuits protecting them from the harsh vacuum of space. They moved across the rugged landscape, chunks of rock and metal crunching beneath their heavy boots. Turner held up a scanning device, analyzing the composition of the asteroid to find the optimal drill site. "Over there," he said, pointing to a flat area near a ridge. "That's where we set up the rig." The crew hauled the components of the massive drilling rig out of the ship's cargo hold, assembling it piece by piece. The rig towered over them, a testament to human ingenuity and engineering. Enhanced with cutting-edge technology designed for the most challenging industrial projects back on Earth, it was their best hope of penetrating the asteroid's dense core. With the rig in place, the crew fired up the powerful drill. The bit spun furiously, kicking up clouds of dust and debris as it bore into the surface. But progress was slow. The nickel-iron composition of the asteroid was even harder than they anticipated, dulling the drill bit at an alarming rate. "We need a new approach," Donnelly said, examining the worn-down bit. "I've got an idea. We brought along an experimental ultrasonic drill head. It's never been tested in conditions like this, but it might give us the edge we need." Turner hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks. But with time running out, he knew they had to take the chance. "Do it," he ordered. The crew worked quickly to swap out the drill head, fitting the ultrasonic model into place. When they fired it up again, the results were immediate. The high-frequency vibrations allowed the drill to cut through the dense metal easily. But even with the improved drill, they had already fallen behind schedule. The crew pushed themselves to the limit, working in rotating shifts to keep the drill running 24/7. They snatched brief moments of rest when they could, knowing that every second brought the asteroid closer to its deadly rendezvous with the Brunali homeworld. On the planet's surface, Kairos paced anxiously in the command center, monitoring the humans' progress. His advisors clustered around him, their faces tight with worry. "This is madness," one of them said. "We should be evacuating the planet, not placing our fate in the hands of these primitives." Kairos shook his head. "They're our only hope. We must have faith in them." But inside, a flicker of doubt gnawed at him. Back on the asteroid, the drilling operation faced a new challenge. As the shaft delved deeper, fractures began to spiderweb through the surrounding rock, threatening to collapse the tunnel and trap the crew inside. Turner reacted quickly, his mind racing through potential solutions. "Donnelly, remember that rapid-setting polymer we used on the Luna project? The stuff we sprayed on the tunnel walls to reinforce them?" Donnelly nodded. "Yeah, I know the one. We've got a few canisters of it in the cargo hold." "Grab them," Turner ordered. "We're going to shore up these walls before the whole damn tunnel comes down on our heads." The crew worked frantically, spraying the polymer onto the fractures. The substance expanded and hardened in seconds, creating a tough, flexible seal that held the rock in place. With the tunnel secured, drilling resumed at a breakneck pace. The crew pushed the rig to its limits, the ultrasonic head whining under the strain. They were making good progress until the drill hit a pocket of trapped gas. The explosion rocked the tunnel, sending debris flying in all directions. The drill rig groaned and buckled, components shattering under the force of the blast. Crew members were thrown to the ground, some crying out in pain as shrapnel tore through their suits. Turner staggered to his feet, his head ringing. He looked down to see a jagged piece of metal protruding from his side, breaching his exosuit. Air hissed from the puncture, and he felt the icy cold of vacuum biting at his skin. Donnelly rushed to his side, helping him seal the breach with emergency sealant. "You're hit pretty bad, Cap. We need to get you back to the ship." Turner gritted his teeth, shaking his head. "No time. We have to finish this." He looked around at his battered crew, seeing the persistence in their eyes even as they nursed their wounds. "Donnelly, take command. Get that drill back up and running. I'll be fine." As Donnelly organized the repair efforts, Turner slumped against the tunnel wall, his vision blurring. The pain in his side was intense, but he pushed it aside. Too much was riding on this mission to give in now. Slowly, painfully, the crew got the drill operational again. They resumed their descent, the shaft plunging ever deeper into the heart of the asteroid. Turner forced himself to stay conscious, watching the readouts as they closed in on their target depth. At last, the drill broke through into a massive chamber at the asteroid's core. The crew stared in awe at the sight before them, a cavernous space big enough to swallow their ship whole, filled with swirling clouds of gas and dust. "Let's get that nuke in place and get the hell out of here," Turner said, his voice strained. The crew manhandled the massive device out of the ship, struggling under its immense weight even in the low gravity. They hauled it into position at the center of the chamber, then set about arming it. But as they worked, they noticed something troubling. The composition of the core was different than their initial scans had indicated. The device wouldn't work as designed. They needed to make adjustments, and fast. Turner tried to sit up, wincing at the stabbing pain in his side. "Donnelly, you're going to have to handle this. I'm not in any shape to—" Donnelly nodded grimly. "I've got it, Cap. You just hang in there." He turned to the crew. "All right, listen up. We need to reconfigure this thing on the fly. Rodriguez, Xiang, you're with me. The rest of you, finish prepping for detonation." As Donnelly and his team pored over the device schematics, racing to puzzle out the needed modifications, The asteroid rumbled ominously. Loose rocks skittered down the tunnel walls, and puffs of dust billowed from new cracks in the shaft. "I don't like the feel of that," one of the crew members muttered. "This whole tunnel could collapse any second." Turner checked the mission timer, his heart sinking. They were running out of time. The asteroid was hurtling closer to the Brunali planet with every passing minute. If they didn't succeed here, millions would die. "Donnelly," he called out, his voice hoarse. "What's the status on that device?" Donnelly looked up from the open access panel, his face streaked with sweat and grime. "Almost there, Cap. Just a few more connections to reroute." The asteroid shuddered again, more violently this time. A chunk of rock the size of a car broke free from the tunnel roof, smashing to the ground just meters from the crew. They exchanged desperate looks, the same thought running through all their minds. They might not have enough time to get out before the nuke went off. The asteroid shuddered again, rocks crashing down around them. Captain Turner gritted his teeth against the pain in his side and pushed himself to his feet. "All right, listen up," he shouted over the rumbling. "Donnelly, get the injured loaded onto the ship. Everyone else evacuate now." "But Cap, what about you?" Donnelly protested. "I'm staying to finish arming this thing," Turner said, his voice firm. "It needs to be detonated manually to split this rock at the right moment. There won't be time for me to get out." The crew stared at him in shock. Rodriguez spoke up. "Captain, no! We can't leave you!" "That's an order," Turner barked. "Now move!" Reluctantly, the crew began filing out of the chamber. Donnelly lingered, gripping Turner's shoulder. "It's been an honor, sir," he said, voice thick with emotion. Turner nodded. "Take care of them, Mike. Now go." As the last of his crew disappeared down the tunnel, Turner turned back to the nuclear device. His hands flew over the controls, inputting the final arming sequence. Another violent tremor rocked the chamber. Turner lost his footing, crashing to his knees. He looked up to see the tunnel entrance collapsing, sealing him inside the asteroid's core. Alone in the dim emergency lighting, Turner dragged himself back to the device. He thought of his family back on Earth, of all the missions that had brought him to this moment. With a deep breath, he entered the detonation code. As the countdown began, Turner activated his suit's communication system one last time. "Karos, this is Captain Turner. I hope this message reaches you. We've armed the device. Your world will be safe." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I know our peoples are strangers, but I hope this mission can be the start of a lasting friendship between humans and Brunali. Good luck." The timer ticked down. Turner closed his eyes, picturing the green hills of Earth. There was a blinding flash, a roar that shook the universe, and then silence. Miles away, Donnelly and the crew watched in awe as the asteroid split in two. The fragments drifted apart, their edges glowing white-hot from the nuclear blast. "He did it," Donnelly whispered. "That crazy son of a bitch actually did it." On the Brunali homeworld, crowds gathered in the streets, staring up at the sky in wonder. The massive asteroid that had loomed over them for months was breaking apart before their eyes. Cheers erupted as the people realized the impossible had happened. They were saved. In the command center, Karos received Turner's final transmission. The Brunali leader bowed his head, moved by the human captain's sacrifice and his hopes for the future. "We will not forget this," Karos vowed quietly. "The Brunali will always remember what humanity has done for us today." Days later, as Donnelly's ship touched down on the Brunali homeworld, they were greeted by throngs of grateful aliens. Karos himself was there to meet them, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting he had learned. "Welcome, friends," he said warmly. "You have saved our entire civilization. We are forever in your debt." Donnelly nodded solemnly. "We're glad we could help, but the real hero was Captain Turner." Karos's expression grew somber. "Yes, we received his final message. His sacrifice will never be forgotten." In the following weeks, as the crew prepared to return to Earth, Karos and the Brunali leaders worked tirelessly to establish formal relations with humanity. They offered to share advanced technology and scientific knowledge as a gesture of gratitude. Word of the mission spread quickly across the galaxy. Other alien races who had dismissed humanity as primitive now looked at the upstart species with new respect. The humans who had volunteered for a suicide mission to save an alien race they'd never met had demonstrated a courage and selflessness that could not be ignored. As Donnelly's ship lifted off from the Brunali world, he gazed out at the alien cityscape below. He thought of Captain Turner, of the impossible odds they'd overcome, and of the new era of interstellar cooperation that was dawning. "We did it, Cap," he murmured. "We really did it." Karo stood before the Brunali Council, his voice filled with conviction. "We owe these humans a debt we can never fully repay. Captain Turner gave his life to save our world. Now we must honor his sacrifice by forging a lasting bond between our peoples." The council chambers erupted in murmurs as Karos outlined his proposal. "I suggest we invite a human delegation to live among us, to learn our ways and share their own. This exchange will be the foundation of a new era of cooperation between our civilizations." After heated debate, the council approved Karos's plan. Within days, a formal invitation was dispatched to Earth, seeking volunteers for this historic mission. On Earth, the response was overwhelming. Thousands applied for the chance to be among the first humans to live on an alien world. The selection process was grueling, with candidates undergoing months of physical, psychological, and diplomatic training. In the end, a team of 6 was chosen. Michael Donnelly, still haunted by the loss of his friend and mentor Captain Turner, was selected to lead the group. As he packed his belongings for the journey, Donnelly's hands lingered on a battered photograph of himself and Turner from their academy days. "I'll make you proud, Tom," he whispered. "I'll finish what you started." The human delegation arrived on the Brunali homeworld to a hero's welcome. Thousands of aliens lined the streets, their tentacles waving in excitement as the human shuttle touched down. Karos himself was there to greet them, extending all 4 of his arms in a gesture of friendship. "Welcome, honored guests," Karos said, his translator conveying warm tones. "Your bravery in coming here matches that of Captain Turner. We are humbled by your trust in us." Donnelly stepped forward, fighting back a lump in his throat as he replied, "We're grateful for this opportunity, Leader Karos. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn from you and share what we know." The humans were ushered to their new home, a gleaming complex of interconnected domes on the outskirts of the Brunali capital. Donnelly marveled at the speed and craftsmanship with which it had been constructed. "You've thought of everything," he said to Karos as they toured the facility. "Even the air mixture has been calibrated for our physiology." Karos's tentacles rippled in what Donnelly was learning to recognize as a smile. "We want you to feel at home here, Michael. Your comfort and safety are our highest priority." In the weeks that followed, the human delegation threw themselves into Brunali culture. They attended language classes, studied alien history, and participated in traditional ceremonies. In turn, they shared human music, art, and cuisine with their eager hosts. Dr. Emily Parker, the team's xenobiologist, found herself particularly fascinated by Brunali biotechnology. She spent long hours in their research labs, comparing notes with alien scientists and marveling at their advancements. One day, as Parker tinkered with a Brunali energy converter, inspiration struck. She called out excitedly to her alien colleague, Zintha. "What if we combined your photosynthetic cells with our quantum dot technology? We could create an energy source that's virtually limitless." Zintha's eye stalks quivered with interest. "An intriguing hypothesis, Emily. Let us explore it further." As word of Parker's breakthrough spread, Karos recognized its potential. He summoned Donnelly to his office, his tentacles twitching with excitement. "Michael, this discovery could transform both our worlds. I propose we launch a joint research initiative to develop it further." Donnelly nodded, feeling a surge of pride in his team's accomplishments. "I think that's an excellent idea, Karos. This is exactly the kind of collaboration we hoped for when we came here." As they worked together on the energy project, Donnelly found himself drawn to Parker's brilliant mind and passionate dedication. They began spending more time together outside the lab, exploring the alien city and sharing their hopes for the future. But not everyone was pleased with the growing bond between humans and Brunali. A vocal minority on both worlds viewed the partnership with suspicion and fear. On Earth, pundits debated the wisdom of sharing advanced technology with an alien race. Among the Brunali, a radical faction known as the Purists began spreading propaganda about human corruption of their culture. Tensions came to a head one night as Donnelly and Parker were leaving the research facility. A group of purists had gathered outside, waving signs with anti-human slogans. As the two humans approached, the crowd grew agitated. Suddenly, a rock flew through the air, striking Parker on the shoulder. She cried out in pain as Donnelly pulled her close, shielding her with his body. Security forces rushed in to disperse the crowd, but the damage was done. As they huddled in the safety of their quarters, Donnelly's mind raced. The situation was spiraling out of control. He thought of Captain Turner, facing down certain death to save an alien world. Now it fell to Donnelly to preserve the peace Turner had sacrificed everything for. He knew the days ahead would be challenging, but as he looked at Parker, her eyes filled with dedication despite her injury, Donnelly felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had come too far to give up now. Together, they would find a way to bridge the gap between their peoples and build the future Captain Turner had dreamed of. The tranquil night erupted into chaos as the first Molotov cocktail shattered against the energy facility's outer wall. Flames licked upward, casting an eerie glow over the surging crowd of Brunali protesters. Their chants of "humans go home" echoed through the air, punctuated by the crack of energy weapons. Inside the facility, alarms blared. Donnelly sprinted down a corridor, shouting into his comm unit. "This is not a drill. All non-essential personnel evacuate immediately." He rounded a corner and nearly collided with Dr. Emily Parker. Her face was etched with worry as she gripped a data pad. "Michael, the reactor." "I know," Donnelly cut her off. "Get your team and secure it. We can't let them near that technology." As Parker hurried off, Donnelly gathered the remaining human delegates in the main atrium. "Listen up. We've trained for this. Jenkins, Rodriguez, take up defensive positions by the east entrance. Chen, you're with me at the main gate." The delegates moved with practiced efficiency, checking weapons and donning protective gear. Outside, the roar of the crowd grew louder. "They've breached the outer perimeter," a Brunali security officer shouted, his tentacles writhing in agitation. Donnelly gritted his teeth. "Hold the line. We just need to buy time for the evacuation." A thunderous boom shook the building as the main gates buckled. Donnelly raised his weapon, heart pounding. The twisted metal groaned, then gave way with a screech. A wave of enraged Brunali poured through the opening. "Open fire!" Donnelly ordered. Stun blasts lit up the night, dropping the first wave of attackers, but more kept coming. Amid the chaos, a familiar figure pushed through the crowd. Karos, his ceremonial robes torn and stained, approached a towering Brunali with scarred tentacles. "Zoran!" Karos shouted. "This madness must stop!" The rebel leader sneered. "Madness? You're the one who's gone mad, Karos, letting these aliens corrupt our world, steal our secrets." "They're here to help us," Karos pleaded. "The humans saved our planet. Now they offer us knowledge, friendship." "They offer us subjugation," Zoran roared. He raised a weapon, aiming it at Karos. Donnelly's finger tightened on his trigger, ready to defend the Brunali leader. But before he could fire, a blinding flash erupted from the direction of the reactor chamber. The ground shuddered violently. "Oh God," Donnelly whispered. He keyed his comm. "Parker, what's happening?" Static crackled. Then Parker's voice came through, tight with fear. "The containment field's been breached. Michael, it's going critical. We can't stop it." Donnelly's blood ran cold. If that reactor blew, it would take out half the city. He opened his mouth to order a full retreat, but Parker spoke again. "There's only one way. I'm going in to manually realign the core." "That's suicide," Donnelly shouted. "The radiation levels—" "It's the only chance we have," Parker said firmly. Get everyone out. I'll buy you as much time as I can. Donnelly wanted to argue, to order her to evacuate with the others, but he knew she was right. Understood, he said, his voice thick. Good luck, Emily. He turned to the others, pushing aside his fear for Parker. Change of plans. We need to clear this area now. As Donnelly organized a fighting retreat, Parker entered the reactor chamber. Warning klaxons blared as she approached the pulsing core. Her hands flew over the controls, initiating the emergency shutdown sequence. Reactor stability at 18% and falling, the computer intoned. Radiation levels exceeding safe limits. Parker's exosuit crackled as the first waves of deadly energy washed over her. She grunted in pain but kept working, realigning conduits and rerouting power. Outside, Donnelly led a desperate counterattack. He fired his weapon again and again, clearing a path for evacuees. Move! 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 He shouted, urging civilians towards safety. A Brunali militant lunged at him with a vibroblade. Donnelly ducked, the blade slicing air where his head had been. He brought his weapon up, catching the attacker under the chin with a vicious strike. The Brunali dropped, unconscious. Donnelly glanced at his chrono. How much longer could Parker hold out? How much longer could any of them? In the reactor chamber, Parker's fingers trembled as she input the final sequence. Her vision blurred, muscles screaming in protest. The exosuit's alarms shrieked warnings, its shielding failing. Come on, she muttered. Come on. With a final Herculean effort, she slammed her palm down on the shutdown initiator. The reactor's angry red glow faded to a dull amber. Parker sagged against the console, her strength spent. As the reactor powered down, the fight seemed to go out of the rioters. Zoran's followers threw down their weapons, allowing themselves to be taken into custody. Karos approached Zoran, his voice heavy with sorrow. It didn't have to be this way, old friend. Can't you see the potential of what we're building here? Zoran said nothing, his eyes downcast as Brunali security led him away. Donnelly's calm crackled to life. Reactor! Stable! Parker's weak voice came through. It's done! He sprinted toward the chamber, his heart in his throat. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing Parker slumped on the floor. Her skin was pale, flecked with radiation burns. Donnelly cradled her in his arms, his eyes stinging. Emily, hold on. We'll get you to medical... She shook her head weakly. Too late for that, but we did it, Michael. We showed them what humanity stands for. We did, Donnelly said, his voice breaking. You did. Parker's eyes fluttered. Promise me, you'll keep going. Build the future we dreamed of. Donnelly clasped her hand tightly. I promise, no matter what it takes. With a final shuddering breath, Parker went still. Donnelly held her close, tears streaming down his face. In the days that followed, news of Parker's sacrifice spread across both worlds. On Earth, vigils were held in her honor. On the Brunali homeworld, even former protesters laid flowers at the gates of the human compound. Donnelly stood before the assembled human delegation, his face etched with grief and tenacity. We've lost a hero, he said, but we can't let her sacrifice be in vain. We have work to do. Donnelly stood before the memorial to Dr. Emily Parker, his hand resting on the cool metal plaque. The inscription read, in honor of Dr. Emily Parker, whose sacrifice saved countless lives and forged a path to peace. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. I won't let you down, Emily, he whispered. Turning away from the memorial, Donnelly strode into the bustling command center of the human delegation. Screens flickered with data streams and communications from Earth. He nodded to his team, their faces a mix of dedication and grief. All right, people, we've got work to do, Donnelly announced. Dr. Parker gave her life for this mission. Now it's up to us to see it through. As the days passed, Donnelly threw himself into strengthening human-Brunali relations. He attended countless meetings with Brunali officials, poring over trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. The work was exhausting, but Donnelly pushed on, driven by the memory of Parker's sacrifice. One morning, Kairos summoned Donnelly to the Brunali High Court. The cavernous chamber buzzed with tension as Zoran and his followers were led in, their tentacles bound. Kairos's voice boomed through the hall. "Zoran, you stand accused of inciting violence against our human allies and endangering countless lives. How do you plead?" Zoran's eye stalks quivered with defiance. "I plead for the purity of our people. These humans will destroy us." The trial stretched on for days. Donnelly watched as Brunali after Brunali took the stand, recounting the horrors of the attack and praising Dr. Parker's heroism. When the verdict was finally read, Zoran and his closest followers received the harshest sentences in Brunali history. As Zoran was led away, Donnelly caught Kairos's eye. The Brunali leader's tentacles drooped with weariness. "Justice has been served," Kairos said, "but I fear this is not the end of our troubles." Donnelly nodded grimly. "We need to show your people the benefits of working together. Something big, something they can't ignore." That night, Donnelly paced his quarters, mind racing. An idea began to form, audacious and risky, but with the potential to change everything. He called an emergency meeting with his staff. "We're going to propose building an intergalactic shipyard," Donnelly announced. "The first of its kind, combining the best of human and Brunali technology." His team stared at him in stunned silence. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke up. "Sir, with all due respect, that's ambitious." Donnelly grinned. "Exactly. Go big or go home, right?" The negotiations with Kairos and the Brunali Council were intense. Donnelly argued passionately for the project, highlighting the economic and scientific benefits. After weeks of debate, Kairos finally agreed. "We will build your shipyard," Kairos announced, his tentacles rippling with excitement. "On the third moon of our outer planet. It is uninhabited and rich in resources." As news of the project spread, a team of human and Brunali engineers was assembled. Donnelly watched with pride as they pored over designs, mixing Earth computers with Brunali biotech in ways never before imagined. The first shuttles departed for the moon, carrying equipment and personnel. Donnelly stood at the viewport, watching the barren gray orb grow larger. A new chapter was beginning, but the challenges were just the beginning. No sooner had construction begun than the sabotage attempts started. A power relay exploded, nearly killing 3 workers. A shipment of critical components vanished en route. Donnelly cursed as he reviewed the latest security report. "We need to tighten things up," he told his security chief. "I want mixed human Brunali teams guarding every critical area, and start vetting everyone again, from the top down." As the bodyguards took their positions, Donnelly knew he needed to do more. He reached out to Nara, a celebrated Brunali scientist known for her popular lectures. "Dr. Nara," Donnelly said, shaking her tentacle, "thank you for agreeing to meet. I have a proposition for you." Nara's eye stalks swiveled curiously. "I'm listening, Mr. Donnelly." "We need to win hearts and minds," Donnelly explained. "Show your people the incredible possibilities this partnership offers. Would you consider giving a series of public talks about the shipyard project?" Nara considered for a moment, then nodded. "It would be my honor." In the following weeks, Nara's lectures drew huge crowds. Donnelly watched from the wings as she painted a vivid picture of the future, Brunali and human ships exploring the galaxy side by side, unlocking the secrets of the universe. Meanwhile, construction on the shipyard continued at a breakneck pace. Human and Brunali workers toiled side by side, racing against tight deadlines. Tensions ran high as the project entered its final stages. Donnelly walked the partially completed docking bays, marveling at the seamless blend of human and Brunali engineering. A commotion near one of the fabrication units caught his attention. "It won't work," a Brunali engineer shouted, his tentacles flailing in frustration. "The alloy is too unstable at these temperatures." A human engineer stepped forward, her face set with concentration. "What if we modified the cooling system? Use a hybrid approach?" The Brunali engineer's eye stalks swiveled skeptically, but he listened. As the human outlined her idea, his tentacles began to twitch with excitement. "By the 7 moons," he exclaimed, that might actually work." Donnelly smiled as he watched the 2 engineers hurry off, already deep in discussion. It was moments like these that made all the hardship worthwhile. As the shipyard neared completion, Donnelly's pride was tempered by a growing sense of unease. Rumors of a planned attack by remaining radical elements grew more persistent. He doubled the security patrols and pored over intelligence reports late into the night. The morning of the inaugural launch dawned clear and bright. Donnelly stood on the observation deck, watching as dignitaries from Earth and the Brunali homeworld arrived. The first ship built in the new yard gleamed on the launch pad, a testament to what their 2 species could accomplish together. As Karos began his opening speech, Donnelly's comm unit crackled to life. "Sir," his security chief's voice was tight with tension, "we've got movement in Section 7. Armed intruders." Donnelly's blood ran cold. "How many?" "At least a dozen. They're heading for the bridge." Donnelly's mind raced. If the radicals seized control of the ship, they could turn it into a weapon of mass destruction. He had to act fast. "Initiate Protocol Omega," Donnelly ordered, "and get me a strike team. We're going in." Minutes later, Donnelly led a mixed team of human and Brunali special forces through the ship's access tunnels. The sounds of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. "Remember," Donnelly said as they approached the bridge, "we're outgunned and outnumbered. We'll have to outthink them." He took a deep breath, gripped his weapon tighter, and gave the signal to breach the door. The bridge door exploded inward. Donnelly and his team surged through the opening, weapons raised. Smoke filled the air as alarms blared. "Clear!" shouted Sergeant Chen, sweeping her rifle across the room. Donnelly's eyes darted around, taking in the scene. The bridge was empty, save for flickering holographic displays and blinking consoles. "They must have retreated further in," Donnelly said, moving toward the main control panel. "Chen, watch that door. Rodriguez, see if you can access the ship's systems." As Rodriguez worked, Donnelly's mind raced. They'd overcome this crisis, but greater challenges lay ahead. The successful launch of their joint starship marked only the beginning. Months passed as they explored the depths of space, seeking new civilizations to forge alliances with. Star system after star system proved devoid of intelligent life. "Anything on long-range sensors, Lieutenant Crowell?" Donnelly asked, pacing the bridge of the UBS horizon. The Brunali officer's eye stalk swiveled toward his console. "Negative, sir." "Wait." Crowell's tentacles twitched with excitement. "I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature. Coordinates 227 Mark 184. Donnelly leaned over Crowell's station, studying the readout. "What are we looking at?" "It appears to be a dense cluster of artificial constructs," Crowell replied. "Definitely not natural." "Helm, set course," Donnelly ordered. "Let's see what we've found." As they approached, the crew stared in awe at the massive structure filling their view screen. A sprawling array of interconnected modules and habitats stretched for thousands of kilometers. "My God," whispered Commander Evans, Donnelly's XO. "What is it?" Donnelly's voice was hushed with wonder. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." He tapped his comm badge. "Away team to Transporter Room 1. Minutes later, Donnelly materialized inside the alien megastructure with a team of human and Brunali specialists. They found themselves in a vast, dimly lit chamber. Strange, angular architecture surrounded them, covered in unfamiliar symbols. "Fan out," Donnelly ordered. "But stay alert. We don't know what—" A piercing shriek cut him off as hidden panels slid open. Mechanical arms tipped with pulsing energy weapons emerged, targeting the intruders. "Take cover," Donnelly shouted, diving behind a nearby console. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, scorching the deck where they'd been standing moments before. The away team scrambled for shelter, returning fire with their own weapons. "It's no use," yelled Dr. Satok, the Brunali scientist. "Our weapons aren't penetrating their shields." Donnelly's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes landed on a nearby access panel. "This way," he called, gesturing for the team to follow. They sprinted down twisting corridors, the relentless defenses pursuing them at every turn. Donnelly's breath came in ragged gasps as they rounded another corner. Suddenly he skidded to a halt. Before them stood a massive holographic display, its alien text shifting and changing. "Satok," Donnelly called. "Can you make sense of this?" The Brunali scientist studied the display, his eye stalks twitching rapidly. It's some kind of historical record," he said, voice filled with awe. "This structure, it's an Orc ship, built by an ancient race, fleeing the destruction of their home galaxy." Donnelly's eyes widened as the implications sank in. An Orc ship, with all their knowledge and technology preserved. He turned to his team, a plan already forming. "We need to access their central database. If we can transmit that information back to our ship." A nearby explosion rocked the corridor, reminding them of their precarious situation. "First things first," Donnelly said grimly. "We need to disable these defenses. Everyone, look for anything that resembles a control center. We're going to shut this place down." As they pressed deeper into the heart of the alien megastructure, Donnelly knew the real struggle was only beginning. But the potential reward, technology that could propel humanity and the Brunali to new heights, made every risk worthwhile. They rounded another corner, weapons at the ready, prepared to face whatever challenges this ancient Orc ship might throw at them next. The ancient Orc ship's cavernous halls echoed with the frantic footsteps of Donnelly and his team as they raced back to the UBS horizon. Their minds buzzed with the wealth of knowledge they'd uncovered, each step carrying them closer to a future they could scarcely imagine. Months later, deep within a secure facility on the Brunali homeworld, Donnelly stood before a gathered group of Earth and Brunali's brightest minds. The room hummed with anticipation. "Project Singularity," Donnelly announced, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "That's what we're calling it, and it's going to change everything." He gestured to a holographic display, which flickered to life, revealing schematics of impossible complexity. "The Orc ship's database has given us a roadmap to technologies beyond our wildest dreams. We're going to reverse engineer and improve upon every last bit of it." Dr. Lena Chen, a brilliant human physicist, leaned forward, her eyes widening as she studied the display. "Is that a quantum singularity drive?" Donnelly nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "It is, and it's just the beginning." In the weeks that followed, the Project Singularity team worked around the clock. Human and Brunali scientists labored side by side, unraveling the mysteries of the Orc ship's advanced systems. Donnelly paced the main lab, pausing to observe a group of engineers hunched over a pulsing prototype. "How's it coming, Dr. Krell?" he asked the lead Brunali scientist. Krell's eye stalks swiveled excitedly. "We've achieved stable quantum entanglement," he chittered. "If our calculations are correct, this drive will allow us to cross the galaxy in a matter of days." Donnelly clapped the Brunali on his carapace. "Outstanding work. Let's get it installed in the horizon for a test run." The maiden voyage of the quantum singularity drive was nothing short of miraculous. Stars streaked past the viewports at impossible speeds as the horizon cut through space-time itself. Standing on the bridge, Donnelly turned to his crew, a mix of humans and Brunali, all wearing expressions of awe. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "welcome to a new era of exploration." Their first encounter with the Vranix Confederacy came unexpectedly. The horizon dropped out of quantum space to find itself surrounded by sleek, biomechanical ships of breathtaking design. Donnelly stepped forward as the view screen flickered to life, revealing a being of shimmering energy contained within a translucent exoskeleton. "I am Zalthrak, emissary of the Vranix Confederacy," the alien intoned. "You trespass in our space, interlopers." Donnelly raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "We come seeking knowledge and friendship, emissary Zalthrak. Allow us to demonstrate our own technological achievements." Over the next several hours, Donnelly engaged in a delicate dance of diplomacy and technological showmanship. He authorized carefully controlled demonstrations of their quantum drive, advanced shields, and energy weapons. The Vranics' initial hostility gradually gave way to grudging respect, but it wasn't until Donnelly unveiled their crowning achievement that the tide truly turned. "We call it the Quantum Intelligence Matrix," Donnelly explained, gesturing to a pulsing crystalline structure. "It's an artificial intelligence capable of processing information across multiple quantum states simultaneously." Zalthrak's energy form flickered with what Donnelly interpreted as surprise. "Impossible," the Vranics emissary declared. "Such technology is beyond even our capabilities." Donnelly smiled. "Perhaps we can come to an arrangement that benefits us both." The knowledge-sharing accord with the Vranics opened floodgates of innovation. Project Singularity's Deep Space Research Station took shape at a breakneck pace, incorporating technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. But success bred jealousy and fear. Donnelly found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, suspicious of every new face that joined the project. Late one night, as he pored over security logs in his office, a priority alert flashed across his screen. He tapped it, his blood running cold as he read the message. "Unauthorized data transfer detected. Source, Lab 7. Donnelly sprang into action, racing through the station's corridors. He burst into Lab 7, weapon drawn, to find Dr. Chen frantically trying to wipe a data terminal. "Lena!" Donnelly's voice was filled with disbelief. "What have you done?" Chen turned, her eyes wild with fear. "I had no choice, Michael. They threatened my family. Before she could finish, alarms blared throughout the station. Donnelly's communicator crackled to life. "Sir, we're detecting multiple ships on an intercept course. They're not responding to hails." Donnelly's mind raced. He'd have to deal with Chen later. Right now, he needed to protect the project at all costs. "Initiate Protocol Omega," he barked into his communicator, "and get me a direct line to the Vranics. We're going to need their help." As he raced toward the command center, Donnelly knew he was about to cross lines he'd once thought unthinkable. But with the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, he'd do whatever it took to see Project Singularity succeed. Donnelly's eyes scanned the holographic display. His eyes hardened as he processed the latest intelligence reports. The sabotage attempts had grown bolder, more frequent. He knew they had to act. "Krell," he called, turning to the Brunali Special Forces commander. "I need your best. We're going in." Krell's eye stalks twitched with anticipation. "My team stands ready, sir." Hours later, a stealth shuttle sliced through the inky blackness of space, its destination a barren moon on the fringes of charted territory. Inside, human and Brunali operatives checked their gear in tense silence. 30 seconds to touchdown," the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Krell's mandibles clicked as he addressed his team. "Remember your training. We get in, secure the data, and get out. No heroics." The shuttle touched down with a soft thud. Krell led the charge, his multi-limbed form moving with surprising grace as they approached the hidden entrance to the collective's base. A muffled explosion rang out as they breached the outer defenses. Alarms blared. The corridors erupted in chaos as security forces converged on their position. "Take cover!" Krell shouted, diving behind a nearby console as energy bolts sizzled past. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone as weapons fire intensified. A human operative cried out, clutching a wounded arm. Krell saw an opening and seized it, his cybernetically enhanced reflexes allowing him to take down 3 guards in rapid succession. "Push forward," he ordered. "We need to reach the central data hub." They fought their way deeper into the facility, leaving a trail of disabled security systems and unconscious guards in their wake. Finally, they reached their objective, a heavily fortified server room. As Krell's tech specialist worked to bypass the final security measures, the Brunali commander turned to his human second-in-command. "Plant the charges. If we can't extract the data, we'll make sure no one else can access it either." The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, banks of servers hummed with activity. The team worked quickly, downloading terabytes of classified information onto specialized data crystals. "We've got company," a lookout warned. "Multiple hostiles approaching fast." Krell made the call. "We have what we need. Fall back to extraction point." They fought their way back to the shuttle, several team members providing covering fire as the others boarded with their precious cargo. As they lifted off, Krell pressed a detonator. The base erupted in a series of explosions, ensuring no trace of their intrusion remained. Back on the research station, Donnelly pored over the stolen data. His eyes widened as he pieced together the truth. "My God," he whispered. "It goes all the way to the top." The intel revealed a web of conspiracy far more extensive than they'd imagined. Ambassadors from a dozen influential galactic powers, all united in their fear of what Project Singularity might unleash. Donnelly knew he had to act fast. He opened a secure channel to his most trusted advisors. "Prepare for immediate departure and ready the Singularity reactor prototype for transport. It's time we show our hand." Days later, Donnelly stood before the hastily assembled Council of Ambassadors in a neutral location. Tension crackled in the air as he laid out his proposal. "Gentlemen," Donnelly began, his voice steady, "I understand your concerns, but what if I told you we had the key to solving the greatest crisis facing our civilizations?" Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the gathering. An avian ambassador scoffed, "Empty promises, human. You have nothing we need." Donnelly allowed himself a small smile. "I beg to differ." He gestured to a veiled object behind him. "What you're about to see will change everything." With a dramatic flourish, he revealed the Singularity reactor prototype. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Impossible," a crystalline being whispered, its facets glittering with shock. Donnelly activated the device. A miniature black hole sprang to life, contained within a shimmering energy field. Power readings spiked off the charts. "This," Donnelly declared, "is the future. Limitless clean energy for all our worlds, but only if we work together." The council erupted in a cacophony of voices, some filled with awe, others with suspicion. Donnelly knew the real work was just beginning. Donnelly's fingers flew across the holographic interface, his eyes darting between streams of incomprehensible code. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked tirelessly to neutralize the AI virus threatening their Singularity reactor. "Dr. Chen, I need those decryption algorithms now," he barked, not taking his eyes off the screen. Lena Chen, her face haggard from days without sleep, nodded. "Uploading the latest batch. This should help isolate the viral core." Beside them, Krell's eye stalks twitched nervously as he monitored the reactor's stability. "Power fluctuations increasing. We don't have much time." The air in the control room crackled with tension. Technicians, both human and Brunali, hunched over workstations, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of data streams. As hours stretched into days, tempers frayed. Ambassador Zalthrak's holographic form flickered to life, his energy form pulsing with agitation. "Donnelly, the council demands answers. How much longer?" Donnelly gritted his teeth. "We're working as fast as we can. This virus is unlike anything we've seen before." Zalthrak's form shimmered with frustration. "Unacceptable. The council grows restless. Some are questioning your competence." Before Donnelly could retort, an alert flashed across his screen. His eyes widened as he processed the information. "This can't be right." "What is it?" Chen asked, leaning in. Donnelly's voice was barely above a whisper. "The virus. It's not from the Ark ship. It was planted here years ago." The room fell silent. Krell's mandibles clicked in shock. "Impossible! Who could have—" "Zoran," Donnelly cut him off. "Bring him here, now." Hours later, Donnelly stood face to face with the imprisoned Brunali radical. Zoran's carapace gleamed under the harsh interrogation lights. "You're wasting your time," Zoran hissed. "I know nothing of this virus." Donnelly leaned in close. "Then who? Who had the resources, the access?" Zoran's eye stalks drooped. "You don't understand. I was just a pawn. The real threat, it comes from within your own ranks. As the truth unraveled, chaos erupted. The council chamber devolved into a cacophony of accusations and demands. Project Singularity must be placed under our direct control. Ambassador Thrax, a crystalline being, shouted, "This human incompetence cannot stand." Donnelly stood his ground. And hand over our life's work to a fractured alliance? Never. He took a deep breath, knowing what he had to do. There's another option, a synchronization matrix that will purge the virus and unify our systems. The room exploded with conflicting reactions. Some council members saw an opportunity for dominance, while others recoiled at the perceived threat to their sovereignty. As debates raged, alarms blared throughout the station. Outside, opposing fleets had opened fire on each other. Donnelly's hand hovered over the activation switch. With a silent prayer, he triggered the matrix. The station hummed to life, systems integrating at a dizzying rate. Donnelly raced to the command center, barking orders as he went. Divert power to shields, weapons online. Through the viewports, energy beams lanced across space. The station shuddered under the assault. "Sir," a technician cried out, "they're targeting the reactor." Donnelly's mind raced. He knew what had to be done. Prepare for emergency core ejection. With trembling hands, he input the final command. The reactor core shot out into space, a miniature sun hurtling between friend and foe alike. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then reality itself tore apart. The singularity expanded, devouring ships and debris in its insatiable maw. Donnelly felt the station lurch as emergency systems engaged. "Slipstream drive online," Krell shouted, "but we don't know where it'll take us." Donnelly looked out at the cosmic maelstrom one last time. "Anywhere but here. Engage." The battered remnants of the station vanished in a flash of light, hurtling into the unknown. As the familiar stars gave way to an alien sky, Donnelly closed his eyes, the weight of their sacrifice heavy on his shoulders. They were alive, but at what cost? His dream of a united galaxy lay in ruins, scattered across the void they'd left behind. Yet as he looked at the determined faces of his surviving crew, human and Brunali alike, he felt a flicker of hope. Their journey wasn't over. It had only just begun.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.